Newton, Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Charles Darwin. These are all great minds that are considered geniuses. But the question is, what actually creates genius in the first place? And it's a very intriguing question because, people we tend to have so many things associated with these geniuses, them being mad and isolated and having incredible amounts of IQ or some ridiculous creativity powers or intellectual or creative powers, there we go, or some ability to receive ideas from the ether or from heaven, I don't know. And well, interestingly, my next video that I've been working on for like 2 or 3 weeks already, and yet I've barely even started filming. The next video is called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, and the thumbnail is going to say, Tap Your Inner Genius. And so because it's all about genius and Leonardo da Vinci, at the beginning I plan to have a shot of this whiteboard where it's going to say, what creates genius, in big red letters. What creates genius? And so, well, I want to touch on this in this quick video because I've just been studying all these great minds and I'm currently creating, I'm building this set for the opening that I'm going to be shooting, and I have Einstein up there, Newton, and Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci over here. Although I think I'm going to swap Newton for Charles Darwin, which means I'm actually going to have to order some extra pictures, and I also forgot to order the Mona Lisa, so I'm going to be ordering that too. And well, I've come across, I've made an observation. And first of all, I made an observation of what creates genius, by the way. And well, let's get something out of the way. So the obvious thing out of the way. All of these geniuses studied a lot. A lot. Now, the thing is that studying does not have to mean books because, for some, that meant, well, actually, for most of them, it was a combination of reading, consuming theory from other great minds, and also doing and making observations and questioning. So it's not enough to just, consume theory from minds of the past, because then you're not going to be much else than what others were, or you're not going to discover or create much else than others created. Obviously, you can synthesize other things, then that takes your own doing and your own thinking either way. Now, here's the really curious thing. And the thing all these geniuses had in common is that, of course, they studied a lot. Their studies were based not on curriculum, but curiosity. And that's the key thing there. None of these geniuses, none of what they created or discovered, none of it came from school. None of it. For all of these, it came from pursuing their own curiosities and fascinations and interests. Leonardo da Vinci is a prime example. He's regarded as the #1 genius of all time. And yet, because he was an illegitimate child, which means that his parents weren't married when he was born, he actually was not allowed to receive formal schooling at all. He went to an abacus, I think I'm saying that right, like some basic math school, but that's it. He was not allowed to go to school and actually access formal schooling. So he actually called himself Discepolo della Esperienza, which means disciple of experience. So the point there is that he didn't rely on theory very much and what others taught him. Rather, he liked to make his own observations and question everything. Einstein was well known for, or is well known still for, supposedly struggling in some classes like English and maybe some other classes, and I think one's to do with speaking or writing. And he actually dropped out of school at 15 or 16. And then then he started pursuing his own things. And he came up with the theory of special relativity while working a job, just a standard job. And that's when he came up with his theories, not during university, but when he was working a standard job to make some money. And this job, I think, allowed him to work a few hours a day, and then he could go home and then work on his stuff. Newton is a great example also, because Newton, yes, he actually did go to Cambridge as far as I'm concerned, but when he really started to form his theories and understand gravity, from what I know, to be clear, I've not studied Newton as much, so I can only make claims that I know are mostly, almost certainly true on Leonardo and others. Newton I've not studied as much, that's the point there, either way. But from what I know, Newton came up with his theories when he went into quarantine, or when there was a lockdown or something, there was a plague or something along these lines. I need to study that time as well. That's when he came up with his things. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was considered a rather ordinary boy, or I think the quote is an ordinary boy rather below with standard intellect, something along those lines. That's actually a quote from his parents, I think. Something along those lines, or from him. And I think he was studying in medical school, and then he dropped out. And he went on like a 5 or 7 year voyage. And that's when he made his discoveries, when he was able to spend time on his own, deep with his own thoughts, making his own observations and questioning everything. And so, really, here's the lesson, okay? Genius nowadays is defined as having just insane intellectual or creative capabilities. But really, the original meaning of genius, which by the way comes from Latin, the word genius does, simply referred to the innate qualities and gifts each person was uniquely born with. The qualities and abilities each person was uniquely gifted with. And so, what all these people did, like Leonardo da Vinci and Einstein and Newton and Darwin, what all these people did is they pursued their own unique qualities and gifts, their own inclinations, their own curiosities, their own passions, their own strengths. And so, many people think that these geniuses have an insane amount of talent. But personally, I believe that we all have talent, but because it's not that you're either talented or you're not, it's how are you talented? It's what talents do you have? Because it's pretty obvious that, Michael Jordan and Einstein, I've made this example before, but Einstein would struggle on a basketball team and vice versa. Michael Jordan would struggle with, Einstein's theories. So it's not are you talented or not, it's how are you talented, and it's about following your own specific thing. And this is also why Einstein said everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing it is stupid. And what we can notice with so many of these geniuses is that they were just obsessed. And some of them even considered mad, maybe. They approached madness, maybe like Tesla. And, well, where this obsession comes from, once again, is not something from heaven that none of us have access to, but rather it's a result of pursuing the things you genuinely are interested in, because that's when you become obsessed. Of course, you're not going to be obsessed and you study rigorously and want to do incredible work if you're just being forced by school to study one thing or another. Of course, that's going to happen when you start studying on your own, studying what you want, with autonomy. So basically, the lesson here is don't put all these people on a pedestal, because you, my friend, within you, you also have an immense potential. It's already there within you. All you have to do is look within. The answers to your questions are not out there somewhere, they are within you. I wish you all the best. Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave things here for today. So I wish you all the best, and well, remember to look within. And until next time, ciao.